that the community sees that we collaborate with the police department and we're a force in the community and we're a presence, and we want to make sure they are living where they live. We do house searches if necessary when we get there, and we check out their environment and make sure that everything is the way that we believe it should be.
I see. When you, boy, you really get out and about, don't you?
I do.
You or a member of your staff are accompanied by an officer when these visits take place?
Yes, because we are not armed, so we go with an armed officer. And also we like to go with the police in their jurisdiction because, again, it's a good presence to have in the community, but it's also good for the police departments to know who in their community is on probation.
You talk about an impromptu visit, Veronica. Do our probationers have a curfew that they need to be in by? Or?
We do not impose curfews on our probationers.
So when you make an impromptu visit, I mean, if the guy's not there, is that a problem? I mean,
well, we'll come back.
Okay, probably well that he knows that you'll be by. And of course,
right.
When the folks come to the courthouse to meet with you, I mean, there's dialogue goes on all the time. I mean, this is not going to be any surprise to them that you might be by.
Right. The only surprise will be when we'll be coming by.
I see.
Yes, but they are well aware that we make home visits and other site visits.
On the topic of home visits and you know, that sort of outreach, getting out that thing, do your people go to bars, or do they make those type of sweeps looking?
No, we don't do bar sweeps necessarily. Our people are adults, so we view that as at the age of 21, if they're legally allowed to drink, and there is no prior alcohol problem or conviction, then we don't prohibit our probationers from drinking.
I see.
So, however, if they've had prior DUIs or any kind of alcohol abuse issues, then we will tell them the first time we see them that they're prohibited from possessing or consuming alcohol. Okay. But because Medina is still a fairly small community, a lot of times my officers will go to places on the weekends themselves socially, and they will run into some of their probationers. So if they see somebody who has a restriction that they're not supposed to be around alcohol, we oftentimes will violate them after that.
Yeah, and that guy's going to get called in and get a talking to, or something going to happen.
Right,
I see. What advice would you give to those who are interested in a career like yours?
I would say you have to be passionate about human behavior. I would say find a good mentor that you can look up to, somebody who can, show you the ropes and teach you the ins and outs. And most definitely be passionate about what you're doing, because most probation officers I know have been in the career field of probation their entire career. So
I think it's kind of the reason I ask you the question is, I think we all get a steady diet of Law and Order from the television and whatnot. And, not to take away from anybody, but prosecutors and police officers, and to some degree defense attorneys, get the limelight here. But it's a pretty important job when you think about it, and obviously there's always going to be a need for people to do this. So I think that's pretty good advice there. I guess all jobs have, I know I spent some part of my life as a school teacher, and I have a few good stories that I sort of cherish. What's yours? What's your biggest success story that you?
I would say that occurred when I was a line staff officer in Cuyahoga, when I was probably maybe on the job for 3 or 4 years, and I had a mother who had a single mother who had 8 children. And she was crack addicted, and we had really a very hard time. All of her children were taken away from her. She eventually went into drug treatment several times, but she eventually was able to kick her crack cocaine habit, and she straightened herself out, and she finished her probation successfully. So I was very happy about that, but you're never quite sure when they leave you if they've relapsed or if they've gone on to succeed further. And this particular lady made a point of coming back every year, at least once or twice.
Really?
Yes, and she would come back and she would ask for me, and she just wanted to check in even though she was done with her probation, and she would check in and wanted to tell me that she's doing fine, and she would bring her children in from time to time, and so that was very gratifying.
That's a nice story. And I imagine sometimes those may be few and far between, but that's great. I guess we've focused a lot here in today's episode of what probation is and whatnot. I guess there is a reality tinge here. Tell us what happens to people who don't comply.
Well, if they are not meeting the conditions of probation and if they are violating their probation, then when they come to see us, we will charge them with a violation. So we might say, the judge told you that you have to attend AA meetings and you have not been attending your meetings, so we're charging you with not complying with that condition. And depending on the situation, we may take them into custody at that point, or we may tell them that we will later notify them of the court date, depending on the situation. And at that point, we will go up to court when the court date arrives, and all we do in our role is to present the charges to the court. So we might say, Mr. Smith violated his probation by not following his condition of Alcoholics Anonymous, but then we have a prosecutor present and a defense attorney present to do their respective roles.
I see.
So the defense attorney will try to defend the probationer and the prosecutor will try to convict him.
Well, as part of this show, Veronica, we're going to actually bring some footage, a tape, if you will, of I guess what's called a probation violation hearing. Am I correct?
Correct, yes.
And like any judicial hearing, it's held in the courtroom. It's your department that actually is moving forward on this, correct?